Welcome to Life Passages, The Soul's Journey. I'm really glad you're with us today. We're going to speak about the very deep subjects of living and dying. It's what we're all here doing. And we have with us Jennifer Hart, who has written a book, Marley Rides. That is the title of our show, Marley Rides. It's a book about her son's living and dying. Her son lived very well in a short period of time, and then at the age of 16, he got cancer, was it?
15.
15. And so then how many years did you have with him before he died?
Well, they gave him 6 months to live, and he thought he would challenge all the doctors, and he lived to be 18 and a half.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Powerful. What a journey, though, for you. Well, how was that whole journey from the moment of diagnosis through till the grieving after he passed?
Well, I think when you become a parent, you're not thinking about the fact that your child might die before you.
That's right.
So it was quite a shock.
Yes.
There's a kind of an assumption that if we're here, we're going to stay alive. Death, you don't want to look at death.
Yeah, we think that's maybe for somebody in their 80s or 90s.
Yeah, exactly. And Marley had a way of looking at life a little upside down. So he led us on a journey of seeing a diagnosis of terminal cancer as like, it's no big deal. You know, it's no big deal. I want an ATV. I want a bigger horse. I want to live bigger because it might go away.
So his response to it was living bigger.
Now.
More.
Fuller.
Now. And this is a picture of Marley. I don't know if we're showing this at the moment, but as the cameras pan out, then those of you watching can see a big photograph of Marley.
And actually, that's a good example of who Marley was, because he had, I think towards the end, it was like 18 different tumors, all eating away different parts of his body.
Really? In such a short time?
Yes. And this painting was taken...
it is like a painting. It's a photo?
Well, actually, it's a photo. But it was taken 6 weeks before he died, and it's at a cattle roundup. So you can tell, even though he didn't have a hip, he didn't have a knee, we won't even get into what started disintegrating in his body, but he kept going and going and going.
Amazing. So he lived to the full, right up to the end.
He dragged us all along with him. And he was a good teacher. And
so what did you learn from him through that whole journey?
Live big now.
Live big now.
That's a really important thing.
Yes, it is. Living while we have the life to live.
While we have a chance. I mean, I'm assuming that I'm going to walk out of here today, but I could have a heart attack right now. Might as well.
Yes.
Do it big. Love big.
Love big, live full, love full. Beautiful.
And their authenticity, I think, is the next biggest one. If I'm going to hurt, let me hurt. Let me express it. If I want to be excited, let me laugh loud.
So not hiding and holding in. That wasn't his way.
No.
And what a great teacher then, just as you say.
It was part of the journey he took us on through those 3.5 years was relying on a network.
What do you mean by relying on a network?
Well, if you were diagnosed with cancer, you have a couple of choices. One is to suffer alone, do that process alone, or start relying on your friends. And I have a big family, so my way of communicating with that family was to do email. We used the digital communication system.
And it probably worked great, because you could instantly, quickly reach so many people all at once.
And they would forward the letters. And they would forward the letters. So the network became very large, very quick, and many people that we had never met, all of a sudden were writing back.
Wow.
We're with you. We're with you. And it was like,
that's
so cool.
Wow, what a lot of support then you must have felt.
And that's really important. That's one of the biggest lessons that I learned is not to do life alone.
That's a good one.
And you have more fun when you play with other people.
That's right.
And the death process tends to be more heartfelt when family...
When it's shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was with a friend who was dying, not this summer, but the summer before, and she came from a very big family, 14 kids. She was the oldest. Ooh. And so during the last day or two of her life, people had come, all her brothers and sisters and their families had come to be at her home, and they stayed around there as well. And so when I walked in the day that she was actually dying, I didn't, you never know quite when.
Right.
There were like 28 kids all running around, but they were wonderful, and they were all dressed up like for a magical event.
Right.
And, there was a whole circle of men around her while she was dying. They, in their way, that was one of the things they wanted to do, and then all the rest of us could speak with her, each one. So it felt so good.
It's homegrown and natural, and that's the ways of, the old ways of dealing with a dying person. And, right through to whether they're going to be buried or cremated. Mm-hmm. I mean, that process could, a week long. It's the old way is really so special, and we don't talk about it. I mean,
that's right.
I'm not talking about you dying, or I don't talk about me dying.
Uh-huh.
But I stood on a street corner recently, and I just looked at all the people, and I thought, well, how many of these people are dealing with a death, or a beloved that's mm-hmm. dying, and we all deal with it. Mm-hmm. We just don't talk about it.
Right, and it's a built-in to our life here.
And it comes as kind of a shock towards the end when we do deal with it.
That's right.
Have to deal with it. That there's no experience.
Right, so it's not like the elders are teaching the youngers how to do this, but we need to be having that kind of communication. So that's one reason I'm so glad you're on our show today, to talk about that journey, how it was for you, maybe what you learned. Like you said, one thing you learned is the value and importance of calling in.
Communicating.
Community, communication, networking. And maybe, as you found, you didn't know how vast the community of support was until you called out for it. Yeah. And then it did show up.
And that's part of what the design of the book is.
And this is the book, Marley Rides.
Mm-hmm. It's the story of Marley's last 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. But it's just a backdrop for how to live and die well. I mean, here's one example. Here's what we went through. So, how to network is a new.
Well, why don't you talk to us about that? Because a lot of people may not know how to do that. Maybe you had experience before with that. I don't know.
Just reaching out. Okay. And that's something that we're trained really well not to do.
That's right. When I
I'm an independent woman. I can muscle through this one. Right. No cry. Yeah. And that's so far away from what feels good and what we want to do. When I hurt, I would much rather be with somebody who can hold me.
That's right.
And we have to remember that. Have to reach out.
That's right. And you had an unusual aspect of the reaching out, because at the time that Marley was diagnosed, you and your husband had separated, right? Mm-hmm. And he was in another relationship and had been for several years, and you had separate lives. You were separate pretty much, except trading kids every other week or whatever. Yep. So then part of your networking, it sounds like, was bridging that gap and being there with each other as all supporting Marley.
Yeah, it's, don't burn bridges is a good one.
You might need to cross that bridge later.
Yes, I mean, there we were in a hospital room.
Yeah.
And the first go-round was ICU for 12 days. Okay. Small room, sick kid, ex-husband, new wife.
Ooh, there you are.
It's like
there's a life passage for you.
And it was like we had a choice of either working together or battling.
Yeah.
And, we just had to come together and work for what was best for Marley. And Beautiful. It worked beautifully. And Marley died in all 3 of our arms.
Really? How wonderful.
We worked together as a great team for 3.5 years.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah, it was much better than battling.
Yes, for everyone. Because you needed all your forces from within to be able to give to your son and support one another and yourselves just getting through this.
Well,
Marley would have drained everyone if they were fighting. Right?
Oh, yeah. Would have been
Marley?
a real drag.
Yeah.
We ended up laughing a lot
wonderful.
and having a great time. And Marley's theory in life is you have a better time if you do it with other people, whatever it is. And so union was what he liked, and he liked all of his family
Together.
close.
Yeah.
And so doing everything at home and avoiding hospitals was the name of our game.
Right.
And
you did have to go to some hospitals,
but
then
a lot
you
of
chose
surgeries,
a lot of the at-home care.
Yeah.
And when you did find yourself in, was it Boston? You did some very intensive kind of surgery focuses, or
he had a lung removed.
Yeah.
Lung, lymph, and a rib.
And you stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, is that right?
Yeah.
Can you say just a snippet about that before we move on?
Yeah, also stayed in the Ronald McDonald House in Portland.
And some people may not know what that is.
The Ronald McDonald Corporation has put together houses all across the country, and they're usually next to major hospitals. And it's for terminally ill, for kids with cancer specifically, or life-debilitating diseases.
Or life-threatening.
Yeah, so while they're doing surgical process, they have a place, they don't charge any money.
So the family can go stay with their child nearby.
Yes, and everything in these houses has been donated.
Wow.
So talk about networking and community.
That's
it's
big.
Beautiful. I mean, the computers, the telephones, the DVDs, everything.
Yeah.
They do a brilliant job, and it's a heartfelt place.
Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
When we arrived the first time, we weren't alone. All of a sudden, there were 30 other families whose kids had cancer of any variety, and I had no idea how many kids are sick. This is big.
It is big.
We're not talking about it.
That's right.
I am not the only parent that's going to deal with this.
Right. You said there was a whole wing downstairs for the bone marrow transplant children to stay quiet as they need to. And
I mean, these are gruesome processes these kids are going through. And
so he must have had to be very brave to go through a lot of the pain and such. And you as
extremely.
a mom had to be.
Well, like I said, he dragged us along in the journey. It's hard to whimper and cry and feel sorry for yourself when your kid is, going through life with great courage. He had more courage than the rest of us, so we had to buck up and
try and measure up there. Don't be a wimp.
Yeah, or if you're going to be a wimp, be a good wimp.
What's a good
Cry
wimp?
hard.
Cry hard. Go for it.
If I want to suck my thumb in the corner, let me.
Yeah, that's good. So own it then.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're big. There's Ronald McDonald House and Hospice. Those are two great organizations.
And how was hospice helpful to you?
Hospice takes care of families and dying patients. And I think hospice can step in when procedures are aimed at the dying process, not at continuing to live. So it's usually towards the very end. And we had maybe a month with hospice.
And did they come and were at your home quite a bit, or?
Well, we didn't have that much time. I guess it was a couple of weeks. But they are some of the best pain specialists out there. Just by a telephone call, they know, the patient's charts inside and out, and they will provide you quickly with anything you need to have a great, calm death, whether it's in a hospital or at home.
That's lovely. That's reassuring to know that they're there.
Yeah.
So very there.
And I wish there was a hospice that was designed for anybody. So if a kid got into an automobile accident and was in the hospital for a week, that hospice could be there. But it's specifically for terminal disease.
Illnesses. Well, I like that you're speaking of this vaster vision of it.
Someday
it would be
soon.
really wonderful very soon to have that kind of quality of care for someone dying from a traumatic event like an
Or
accident.
just hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
good
hurt.
point. Yeah.
Because some of us don't have a lot of family, and
That's right.
hospice
A lot
is a
of
wonderful
people
family.
don't, and so that's good to remember as we speak about networking and family.
Yeah.
Then, so then having more resources of people who can show up to be present.
And hospice did a wonderful way of walking us through the process of knowing when we might be getting close.
Okay, so they could help you understand what stage you're at in this dying.
And that was important because it was no man's land. My father, I have experienced 2 home deaths before Marley's. And so my father died at home, and within an hour, the funeral parlor people came and zipped him in a black plastic bag and carted him away. When my mother died, we knew enough because of that experience to not call the coroners for several hours so that we could be with her body and, say goodbye privately.
That's nice.
Before she was carted away.
Right.
And with Marley and the help of hospice, they said, you can keep him here. You don't have to take him away.
So what did you do? Did you decide to keep him there at the home?
We did. He died at 11 o'clock at night, and like I said, in the arms of all 3 of his parents. And it was, that last breath is just, oh my God, there's nothing.
No more breath coming out.
Deadline means deadline. There's
Yeah.
there's nothing else you can do. And it took a while to get that he was really dead.
Right.
Shock.
Yeah.
So it's like, had somebody came and taken him away,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I could have dealt with that. So he was at home, surrounded by his family, and we all, we were able to just sit around him and tell stories. And the following morning, hospice came out and had dry ice.
Uh-huh.
And so we packed dry ice around his body and got an air conditioner for the room.
Good idea.
So it became, the old-timey funeral parlor. I mean, and
Yeah,
that's
or
why
like
they
a
call
wake where people come and visit.
the front rooms of
Yeah.
all those big old houses are called the parlor room. That's why. This is where the dead body used to be viewed.
So you got to spend time with him and be next to him.
Let him go. Let him go.
In your own pacing, not
Yeah.
rush.
Yeah, all of us would take different times of spending quiet time with him, and it was important.
Yeah.
3 days. We spent 3 days. That's the classic grieving time, or from the time of
Severance
death.
time.
Yeah, from the time of death to burial or cremation. In most cultures, it's around 3 days.
Right. So that in itself was kind of a ceremony, just the presencing with each other and with him. And you did, even leading up to that time, mark his journey with ceremonies. And then, of course, there was, so no doubt, a memorial ceremony. And then a year later, I think you had an event.
Yeah, parties. Marley liked parties.
He liked parties.
Yeah,
Party
and
boy.
one of the last ceremonies was the cremation.
Okay, let's talk about that.
We had spent 3 days with him, and when it was time, and by the end of 3 days, it was amazing. I was done, even as a mother.
All right.
I was.
You did it upright, cried your cries.
Yep. Well,
You still more of that.
yeah, I had lots more of that,
Yeah.
but at least I was done with his body.
Right, okay.
And it was time to take him to the funeral parlor, and the family, his 3 sisters, and his dad, stepmom, and I were the ones who actually pushed the coffin into the oven and pushed the button, and
Wow.
when that door comes down, that's it.
Right.
That's
The form you
That's
knew him
the-
in is gone.
the last time we will ever see his body. And the following morning, Drew, his dad, stepmom, and I all went to collect the ashes. Scary.
Yes.
Knew never been here before.
Right.
And when the oven door opened, we were shocked because nobody was telling us what we were going to see. I'd seen ashes before, but they were ground up and powdery.
Right.
And this was very chunky.
Okay.
And
So that's a big surprise.
we're talking big bones.
Okay.
And
you even...
so we scraped all of the bones into a metal tray, and we were pulverizing the bones in our hands. Usually, funeral parlors pulverize the ashes for you before they give you a little canister.
And we have 5 minutes just to let us know. We got plenty of time.
And because it doesn't sprinkle easily, and people were a little shocked at getting bones in the little box at the funeral party. So they pulverize them automatically unless you know enough to say, don't pulverize the bones.
And that's what you chose, right?
Well, we were there. We didn't,
so you were the first
people
to greet the ashes
Right.
coming out. So that process hadn't been done yet.
So, so we decided that it was pretty amazing. And I actually have some of what we found in the oven here with me.
Thank you
so
for bringing those.
So that you can see what's possible.
Okay.
So I have...
And you'll tilt that up a little?
I will
the
tilt
camera
this
can
up.
Focus
I
there.
have... So most of the ashes were more or less powdery, but there were big chunks. Mm-hmm. And we also found out that on some of these chunks, you can see, here's the one. It's kind of greeny, and some of the cancer. We had no idea how much of his body had cancer in it until we saw the bones.
And so the color green is an indication of that.
Yeah, bluey green. And this lovely piece here is a prosthesis. It's a stainless steel knee
that was replacing the knee that was taken out because of cancer.
And we had no idea what that looked like until we scraped out his ashes.
What an amazing experience that must have been.
It was. And
Yeah.
it was like a treasure hunt, too.
And it is a treasure. These are the sacred remains of your beloved son.
Yeah, and it was one more ceremony. And the final ceremony for Marley was putting some of his ashes in a firework.
Oh, because he loved fireworks.
And that's how we dispersed his ashes.
Was that his
some of
favorite,
them.
fireworks, other than all-terrain vehicles and all the other?
That was what he requested. So.
He requested it. He knew what he wanted ahead.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, and it was nice.
Powerful.
He was a great guide.
Yes.
And he took us on many adventures.
Yes.
And hopefully, with this, I can take many more people on the same adventure because it was a worthwhile lesson.
Yes. What a journey. And I was feeling grateful that this is such an amazing young man and that other people get to journey with him through the book. And his medicine, so to speak, or his energy goes out and out, just like it is through our talk today.
Well, and part of he wanted to change the way we did business by living bigger, dying better.
Yes.
And part of how I designed this book was a new format. So
And
hopefully
we have 2
it'll
minutes. And tell us in a nutshell what that new format is.
Well, there's pictures.
A lot of pictures, and I've been loving the pictures.
Right.
in here.
It's pictures, quotes, emails that are kind of in a gray format, and my narration between the
tying it
stories.
together.
And many other people submitted articles, so it's not just by me.
Right.
It truly
Many
is
voices.
by Marley's network.
And the pictures I've found, it's like looking at a family album, because I get to know Marley as a child, and then here he is with his sister, and there he is riding he loved to ride all kinds of vehicles. And
So you become a part of the family.
Right. I
And
love that about it. Now, you had learned a lot, as we said before. Cannot do this life alone. With pain, there was something you learned with pain, coming up close. What was that? I just wanted you to get this in before we're
Very
done.
good. Marley's theory in life is if you're dealing with a rogue horse, get close up to its hind end. So if it's going to kick you, it'll just push you away. If you were several feet away, you'd get your head knocked in. So if it hurts, go close to it.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And you also came up with about 2 or 3 words that haven't existed before you came up with them. And if you could say those, and also people can be in touch with you, by the way, at your website. You want to just say it?
Marley Rides, www.marleyrides.com.
Okay. And then the 3 words, and we'll go out on
All right. We have widower, widow, orphan, normal words, but we have no word to describe a parent who's lost a child. So, parax. Okay, and you can be, if you're a father, a patrix, mother, matrix, sibling, siblex.
Very good. Maybe
Cool.
we just complete with that.
Right on. Oh, and may nobody become a parax.
Nobody. We want no one to. And thank you for joining us on this segment of Life Passages. We're so glad that you were here with us to listen to what Jennifer had to share. And perhaps it's given you some new, fresh perspectives about living well and dying well. And wishing you well on your life's journey. Take care. Blessings. Blessings.
Oh. Very good, very good, very good.
They probably
You can change